In the last episode of the Sabang to Merauke journey, I visited the beautiful Mbuang Mbuang in central Sulawesi, where we visited its unique attractions and learned about the local life. And in today's episode, we journey to the farthest reaches of the Banggai Islands, where the ocean tells the time, as we visit the floating village atop the Mandebulu Reef, a world shaped by the tide, where life ebbs and flows with the sea. Before venturing to the mysterious island of Nal, a mere 300 meters long, where the locals live untouched by the trappings of modern civilization, a voyage into the unknown, remote island life. Selamat pagi, guys. It is 10 minutes past 6 and we have been up since 5 o'clock packing all the things. There's only one bathroom, so all the four of us plus the family has to use the bathroom, so we have to do a little bit of coordination, who goes first, shower. And because it's so early, we just had a cup of coffee. We're gonna bring some cakes from the kind Ibu at the restaurant and bring that with us. All in all, we've had a fantastic stay here at the small homestay. We just said goodbye to the family here, and yeah, they just hope that I will want to come back. So in total, I've paid 610,000 for the homestay, and that is for 4 people for 2 nights. So it's actually really cheap, because I'm paying for the captain, the assistant, and Anto as well. And we have actually made a slight change of plan to this trip, because we're gonna add one more stop, because I found a unique spot on Google Maps. It's very tiny and I couldn't find any information about it. So we're gonna go there as well tomorrow. But that means that we have to buy more gasoline for the speedboat. So we can buy that here, but it's 15,000 rupiah per liter, so it's a bit more expensive. And we have to pay $67, so 1,050,000 rupiah for those 70 liters. So we gotta grab the gear now, we gotta go fast before the waves they get bigger. So yeah, let's get on the road, let's get on the ocean, and let's get this day started. We then said goodbye to the lovely Ibus who had cooked all of our meals the last few days. And for 2 nights, including local tour guide, mask rental, extra fuel, homestay and food for my 4-man team, I had paid a total of 3.6 million rupiah or $226. And we then headed for the small harbor, where the kind locals offered to give us a couple of gallons of fresh water, as they told us that we most likely wouldn't be able to find any in the places that we were going to. Mbuang Mbuang is an absolute gem, but even more so because of the lovely people that lives there. It's quite the journey to get there, but it's definitely worth a visit for any true adventurer. Those last few days, I thought I had been living in pretty remote areas of the Banggai Islands, but it was about to get even more remote as we headed out for the open sea, where the next couple of days would be without any signal, any fans, or even a proper bed. The Ibus from the village had given us breakfast for the trip, and my favorite Indonesian snack, the dadar gulung, a delicious green pancake filled with shredded coconut and golden palm sugar. Alright guys, it is now 8 o'clock and we are just a couple of kilometers outside of the Mandebulu Reef. And out here on that big reef, there is about 6 or 7 houses where some fishermen, they live most of the time of the year just to fish. And yeah, the plan is to go and stay with them for one night. But the thing is, it can be really dangerous to go inside the reef because we cannot 100% see clearly where the reef starts. So what we're doing now is trying to look for some fishermen, maybe some of the people that live on the Mandebulu reef, to kind of guide us so the speedboat doesn't get stuck on the reef going in. You can tell just by looking at our captain that he is a little bit nervous because clearly it is not easy to go inside the Mandebulu reef. I think we found a fisherman. Selamat pagi, Pak.
Om di Mandebulu, buat tinggal di Mandebulu. Oh, di Mandebulu kecil. Om bisa pandu orang.
So luckily the kind fisherman, he's agreed to escort us inside the reef. We just have to pay him a bit for his extra gasoline usage. From the speedboat, and even from above, all we could see was water. But it was a good call that Captain Roy sought out a fisherman, because if you don't know the reef here, you can easily get stuck on the coral as the tide shifts. And out in the middle of the ocean, barely visible, 16 small wooden houses built on poles suddenly appeared in front of us. As we had no way to reach them before our arrival, we simply sailed up to the first house and asked if we could stay for the night. And there, Pak Johnny, who had escorted us through the reef, introduced us to Pak Sardan. Pak Sardan has lived out here with his wife for more than 20 years.
Kalau di sini biasa yang dikenal cuma dipanggil Pak Sardan.
Pak Sardan. Salam kenal Pak Sardan. After a quick chat, he agreed to let us stay for the night. Inside their small wooden house, heavy smoke filled the room as Eva was cooking. But even more noticeable is the smell of the dried fish, as this is their main source of income. Because the benefit of living out here is that there are always an abundance of fish to be caught. Jadi setiap hari mancing.
Angka bubu. Rangkap.
Nanti jual di mana?
Ada bos yang datang ambil.
Dari Banggai?
Dari Labobo.
Dari Labobo. Dekat sini?
Iya. Jadi yang kecil 30.000, yang besar 40.
Dan Bapak bisa jual berapa kilo per bulan sekarang?
Mencari pol dalam satu hari, setiap hari 1 bulan, sampai berjalan 1 bulan kira-kira bisa 300-an kilo.
Oh iya, 300-an kilo.
Our conversation suddenly had to be cut short as Pak Sardan took one quick look at the tide and said, "It's time to go." Because out here, they don't look at the time. The tide tells them everything they need to know. And as it was getting high, it was time to check the fish traps. I wondered how he would be able to find his nets, because he doesn't use any modern tracking device or even a buoyant marker. He knows this reef like it was his own backyard, and he knows where all of his 20 nets are located. And with one big breath, he free dives down to check the traps. Under the surface, he has used pieces of coral to camouflage his fish traps. He used to use bamboo as the material to make these traps, but he has recently learned that by using thin metal wires, he can make the same sort of trap, but it will last much longer than the bamboo. The fish can enter the trap through a narrow opening, But once they're in, there's no getting out again. He then unties the latch and fills the bottom of his small boat with today's catch. The amount of fish that he can catch varies from day to day, but they are never empty, he tells me. It is rather difficult to capture, as he does all of this with lightning speed, as he wants to get back before the tide gets too low again. He then dives down to cover up the traps, and tomorrow he'll be back again. Same routine for the last 20 years. So Anto is doing a bit of fishing here while we're just out enjoying the view. And in like 2 minutes, he's caught 2 fish. Strike? Right.
Mau rasakan?
Hah?
Tarikan?
Iya, boleh. Woi, mau kemana bang? Hai! Lepas.
Wah, lepas. Aduh. Buang.
Ya, karena tidak berat. Strike.
Tarik. Woo. Strike.
Strike.
Kenapa itu?
Yo. Ikan dolphin. I think that might just be the first time on my Sabang sama Merauke journey that I've actually caught a fish.
Ikan yang sama.
Jangan bang. As the tide started getting low, that meant that it was roughly midday and time for lunch. And I had kind of already guessed the menu, because immediately upon our return, the family started cleaning today's catch and cooking our lunch. They cut off the fins with a knife, but then they use a seashell to remove the fish scales. The fish that will be sold later are then split in half, and the insides are removed so they can dry in the sun for the next 2 days. And the Ibus prepared the inside of a palm tree trunk, a starch called sagu. It's a cheap and rather tasteless substitute for rice. The fish are then cooked with a spicy and sour sauce, and the sagu are rolled into small buns and mixed with a bit of shredded coconut to add taste. We have each gotten a spoon because we are guests, but the real way to eat this meal is with your hands.
Itu beda-beda rasanya ya.
Enak sama kelapa. Tæden, kom nu. Løb mand. Jamen hvad fuck sker der seriøst? Der! Nej! Alright guys, it is almost 3 o'clock, and you know the funny thing is, it wasn't until we got out here that I didn't realize there isn't that much to do besides fishing. But maybe that's also the point of coming out here, to do more or less nothing besides fishing, talking, having coffee. So yeah, now we've just gone out in the speedboat for a bit. I want to do a bit of snorkeling. Anto, he's doing a bit of fishing. He's catching a lot today actually. And Fari and Paroi, they're just smoking a ton of cigarettes, taking some naps, and I think enjoying that. Yeah, I'm not really requiring them to do a whole lot besides just taking us around, so it's very relaxing. But could I live out here for 20 years like Pasar and his wife? Definitely not. I think I would go crazy walking in circles. It's a unique kind of lifestyle. We then went to visit one of the Bajo people who first moved here in 1999. A French TV crew ended up inviting him to France after having shot a documentary out here. And he told me how this singular experience would forever change his perception of this remote lifestyle. He is currently building a new house as his current one is slowly falling apart. And I was curious to learn what makes a man want to live out here all by himself.
Nama saya Endong Ajo. Saya suka tinggal di sini. Satu, di sini tidak terlalu banyak yang mengganggu aktivitas saya. Kalau macam di kampung yang ramai itu bisa terjadi malam itu larut malam, baru tidur. Besoknya akhirnya tidak bisa mencari nafkah. Tapi kalau di sini cepat tidur karena tidak punya teman. Besok pagi ya ke laut. Yang paling bagus tentang hidup di sini, setiap harinya saya tidak pernah makan itu tidak ada ikan.
Selalu ada ikan.
Selalu ada ikan. Dan setiap hari saya itu berarti ada pendapatan, ada hasil yang saya dapatkan. Tahun 2015, pada tanggal 31 Maret, saya dijemput teman dari Prancis untuk dibawa ke Prancis. Ya, dalam perjalanan itu untuk saya memang sangat bagus. Itu memori hidup saya yang paling memang saya tidak bisa lupakan dalam hidup ini. Karena tidak mungkin saya mau ini ke Eropa lagi. Jadi itu memori saya paling indah. Karena bagi saya kenapa itu terlalu istimewa, karena satu, saya orang yang tidak mungkin sampai ke Eropa. Tiba-tiba saya dijemput, dibawa ke sana. Ya, sampai di sana, dan kota Paris itu kota yang saya anggap luar biasa. Dan di saat saya ke sana itu kan saya diundang di studio. Itu salah satu kebanggaan bagi saya. Dan acara itu siaran langsung. Radio Prancis dan televisi Prancis menyiarkan. Kembali saya berpikir setelah saya pulang ke hotel, hidup saya di Mandebulu hanya seorang tukang bubuk. Saya dibawa di sini, saya kelihatan istimewa. Maka itu saya katakan, wow, hidup saya itu istimewa di sana. Saya pun juga begitu, setelah habis syuting, akhirnya saya tuh memang setelah tayang film itu, tamu dari mancanegara berdatangan. Saya bangga, hidup ini adalah pilihan. Saya bisa sekolahkan anak karena saya tinggal di sini. Awalnya memang saya takut, bisa tidak. Ternyata bisa. Karena apa kata Maria Teguh? Lakukan, jangan kamu hanya menghayal. Tapi saya bersyukur, saya jalani, saya tinggal di sini, semuanya bisa. Karena itu saya lakukan, bukan menghayal.
Pak Endong's story had really inspired me, and as a gesture of our appreciation, we gave him some of the rice that we had brought from mainland. And as his job is not without risk either, I invited him as a representative of Kita Bisa to be a part of the Saling Jaga life insurance community, where thousands of people help to protect each other through collective contributions.
Tidak makan semua selama 1 hari ya, nanti sakit.
Saya orangnya setiap tamu yang datang, saya merasa senang. Pintu rumah saya selalu terbuka lebar bagi siapapun yang suka temui saya.
The openness, hospitality, and overall kindness of the Indonesian people never ceases to amaze me. even though I've now traveled around here for more than 1,000 days. And sunsets like this are surely an incredible and almost unbelievable sight. But what sets Indonesia apart from anywhere else I've traveled is the way that the Indonesian people makes you feel. Because out here, there's no need to worry about anything. Even when you show up unannounced, disrupting their daily lives, we are embraced with open arms. And it makes me feel safe and welcome, as if we're all part of one big family, united under the red and white. It had been another incredible day in Indonesia, and Captain Roy was happy, because for dinner we had keema again, the slightly chewy, cut up clams in spicy and sour sauce. 8 days of only sitting on the ground or the floor was starting to take a toll on my back. But that would be the least of my worries that night. Because before going to bed, Pasar told us that if we were woken up by a snake slithering on top of us, we shouldn't panic, as it's not unusual for the banded sea kite, a snake venomous enough to kill 10 people, to climb into the house during the night and rest on this bamboo floor. As he said, they are very calm, and if it happens, just throw them back into the ocean. It was pitch black dark outside. Anton, he set up his laptop, and we all watched the French documentary that was filmed out here 15 years ago. It was a bittersweet moment for some, as many of the locals from Mandebulu had passed away since then. It was surprisingly bright outside due to the light from the full moon and the millions of stars above us. So we put out our blankets and fell asleep under the open sky. Selamat pagi, guys. It is 5:53 here in Mandebulu, and this morning view is breathtaking. It is on another level. So Anton and myself, we've been sleeping out here on the bamboo floor all night underneath the stars, and I've gotta say that is one of my top 10 experiences on the Sabang sama Merauke journey so far. I woke up at 3 o'clock at night. Everyone was sleeping. There was not a sound. There was no wind. You can only hear the waves beneath the house a little bit. And then the skies were completely clear, full of stars. It almost felt like a dream. Until he brought me a cup of coffee as the first thing, as the Superman he is. And here, you wake up as soon as the sun starts rising, because then it gets really bright. In just 20 minutes, it will start getting really hot as well. Then we're gonna get a bit of sarapan, and then we're gonna head to our very last stop before it's time to end this trip. We're gonna sail for another hour or two to a very teeny tiny island. Yeah, some of the locals call it Marinki. We're not really sure, but neither of us has been there before. So we're super excited to see. It looks, from Google Maps, it looks really beautiful, but there's no pictures online, not even on Google Maps. So that's why we decided that we had to go there. I think it's a perfect way to end this trip. It has really been an incredible trip here in Banggai. Oh yeah, and luckily last night I didn't get any snakes crawling around me during my sleep, so I'm quite satisfied with that. We then said our goodbyes and gave Pak Sardan and his wife 500,000 rupiah, or 31 US dollars, and 10 kilos of rice from mainland. Okay. Alright guys, time to get back on the speedboat. Let's go to Pulau Katini, or Maringki, yeah? Katini, or Pulau Nal.
Siap bos.
Makasih Om. Tante. Makasih banyak.
And so, we set course for the unknown. We luckily had great weather as we headed out to open sea. So only 40 minutes later, we had arrived at Pulau Nal. We weren't able to let anyone know in advance that we wanted to visit, so we had no idea what to expect either. So we simply sailed up to the first house where we could dock, and quickly we were met with great interest and curiosity. Okay. Guys, we have arrived at Pulau Katini atau Maringki? Pulau Nal. Pulau Nal, they bilang. It looks beautiful, and you can tell by their expressions that it is not often they get foreign visitors, because the kids, they just came running over right away as soon as they saw the drone. Siapa namanya, Dek?
Ais.
Hah?
Ais.
Ais? Salam kenal, saya Chris.
Ya.
Ibu.
Jadi orang Bajo?
Ya.
Saya asli orang Bajo juga. Salam kenal Bu, saya Chris.
Nur.
Halo Bu. Salam kenal, saya Chris.
Kasih.
Selamat pagi Pak.
Pagi.
Salam kenal, saya Chris. Kami mau cari rumah untuk inap satu malam.
Ini.
Boleh di sini? Mantap. Terima kasih banyak. Bagus. Gampang. Sudah cari rumah penginapan. Let's go and explore this island a bit. But first, mandi dulu. Cari rokok untuk Farid dan mandi dulu. Ice. I was just talking to Ice and I asked him what class he's in, and he said no class, because on this island there's no school, so they just learn from their parents. Anton and I, we will be sleeping probably here, but we are hoping again that there's not going to be rain tonight, so we can sleep outside. Oh, bisa beli pizza, burger. Maybe they don't know what that is.
Kagak jadi butuh gitu. Ada drone-nya.
Ada drone, ada berapa kamera. All the houses here, they are just built right on the beach. I think this is more or less as remote as it gets. Around 100 people lives on this small island. But as there was a big family event on a nearby island, only around 50 people had stayed. Some of the women were washing their clothes in the closest thing they have to fresh water, which is a small well with slightly salty seawater. The view from our homestay looked like something out of an old National Geographic's magazine. And it was then breakfast time, or as they say in the Bajo language, nginta, which means to eat. Papa sudah makan? Sudah. Makasih. Jadi Anto, makanan apa?
Sarapan pagi kita di Pulau Nel ini, kita makan disuguhkan oleh ibu. Kita makan Indomie goreng sama gurita. Gurita masak kuah kecap.
Enak. Our homestay owner, Padini, moved here from Toropot an island closer to mainland 5 years ago, because there are less people fishing on these parts, so he can catch a lot more here. But the downside of living here is the price of building a house, as the cost of wood and logistics will add up to about 20 million rupiah, or roughly $1,300. Padini then allowed us to use his generator so that we could charge all of our batteries. And how do you go to the bathroom, you might ask? Well, it's as simple as a hole in the floor and dropping it in the ocean, hoping that no one is out swimming. But we had to risk it because we were well overdue for a shower. And right out in front of the island, they have a beautiful house reef, full of beautiful coral and filled with life. We did, however, see that a lot of the coral had started bleaching, which is when the coral turns all white, and it's a sign of a stressed coral, which can be caused by rising sea temperatures, pollution, or simply overexposure to sunlight. It had been such a pleasure bringing Anto as my tour guide for the last 9 days, as we traveled through the many Banggai Islands. And if you wish to get some cool underwater clips, Anto is really good with a GoPro and helped me out a lot. We then decided that it was time to do a small tour around the island. All the houses look the same and are built from the most basic materials. Some of them even have solar panels, so they can use a few lights at night. And sometimes materials will wash up on the beach, like this emergency lifeboat that is now used as a small swimming pool for the kids. The women takes care of the children during the day, as all of the men are out fishing. And on the other side of the island, there is a small separate village where the locals from a nearby island called Bangkulu stays temporarily for 1 month, as they only come here for one thing, and that's fishing. Because they can catch several tons of ikan roa or Ballyhoo fish when the season is for it. And they work in teams, so as soon as the boat comes in, they carry it directly up to one of the small huts where the fish are dropped off. And here, another team is ready to immediately start packing the fish. They then pack the fish into portions of 20, held together by cut up pieces of bamboo. The men can earn around 2 to 5 million rupiah per month, or roughly 125 to 315 US dollars. Whereas the women will get 1 pack of fish for themselves for every 20 packs that they make. And they do it fast, as this is all that they do every day for a month. They have a separate house that functions as a smoker, where the thousands of fish are dried and smoked for 3 days before being shipped to and sold on mainland. And if you want to reach mainland from here, you do, however, have to be a little bit creative to find signal.
Hey bro, ada sinyal. So if you come to Pulau Katini and you really want signal, you can climb a tree. You just have to be a little bit careful, and you might just find a very poor signal with Telkomsel. Hey bro. Oh, but the view is quite good from up here. Wow, guys, I do understand why the people here, they take breaks during the middle of the day. it is so hot and the sun is just non-stop burning. So now it's makan siang time, and then I think it's nap time again because it makes you so tired. I'm trying to drink as much water as I can to stay hydrated, but it's nearly impossible if you're doing different kinds of activities. It is really beautiful and incredible to visit an island like this. But could I live here? Probably not. It's no easy life. And the locals here, like we just saw with the people catching fish, processing it, selling them, it is hard work. So I really admire their spirit. They say that they only get a foreigner visiting maybe once a year or 2 times a year, and they're so happy that I can speak Indonesian, because like a papa here, he said before, they never try that. So it's so nice for them that they can finally communicate with a visitor coming from far. So yeah, they're very happy that we're visiting, and that makes me happy.
As our homestay owner, Padini, makes most of his income from selling octopuses, I figured that's what the menu might be again. The menu in places like this doesn't vary much, but when you're hungry enough, it really doesn't matter. The heat was exhausting as the temperature reached 32 degrees in the shade, and it was making all of us quite sleepy. And the closest thing you'll find to a cool place is laying on the floor, hoping for a bit of wind to pass through the house.
Alright guys, so for the final stop on our trip, we found out that when the tide is low, there is a place around 2 kilometers from Pulau Nal where a beach is created, or the tide gets low enough to see the sand. So out in the middle of nowhere, there's this tiny beach. So yeah, I told the guys we have to try and go there. And I think we might just make it.
The team and I managed to find this small hidden beach in the middle of nowhere. After 9 days of traveling to some of the most unique places in the Banggai Islands, we had seen our fair share of scenic beauty. And Anto seemed quite satisfied with the trip as well, as he painted my name in the sand. I think it's safe to say that we had all had a really good time during this trip.
So guys, this afternoon we're all quite tired, and we are ready for the trip to end and go back tomorrow and get some rest. So I thought, instead of chasing around this afternoon for a lot of clips, I asked the guys, shouldn't we just go fishing? And I think they're pretty happy with that decision. They keep insisting, no, you should fish. Then I say, no, you should fish. Because they've been an absolute pleasure to bring on this trip. All of them. Wouldn't have been the same trip without Anto, Roy and Fari. So yeah, I think that's how we're gonna end the day. And fingers crossed, we can sleep underneath the stars tonight as well.
We did end up sleeping on the bamboo floor and under the stars once again. And it was time to end what had been an incredible island adventure.
Alright guys, and that is it for the Banggai trip. It is time to go back to Luwu. So I'm actually today gonna go straight from here, Pulau Nal, back to Salakan. We have around 2.5 hours. Then I'm gonna pack my stuff, go straight to the ferry, and take the ferry for 5 hours until I get back to Luwuk. And then the trip continues probably to Togian. Let's see. But I would highly recommend you guys to come to Banggai. There's so much to explore here. The people are so kind, and there's so many remote places where it feels like, yeah, you come to a completely new world, and the locals are so happy to have visitors. Terima kasih banyak ya Pak. Sampai ketemu lagi. Dadah guys. And that's gonna be it guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one, and until next time. Dadah guys. Oke, makasih tim. Makasih guys. Makasih. Oi, satu kali lagi untuk Bang Roy. Oi, Kapten. Satu kali lagi untuk Fari. Oi, dan satu kali lagi untuk Mr. Anto. Oi.